And with that familiar intro, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another live episode of Candid Conversations about Network Marketing. Hi, I'm BK, and with me, Dr. Wayne.
Hi, BK. Hi, everyone.
So we were just quibbling, or rather, we were just joking about. So is this season 3 or season 4? And Dr. Wayne had a good point. He said this is season 4 because we are live, right? We just moved into something new. So that's I think that's a good idea. So this is actually technically season 4, episode 3, and this is all live. And usually when we were doing the other episodes, we kind of do a bit of synchronization. For example, if you are watching this, let me show you. I have this. They call it a clapper board, right? This is a clapper board. So what you do is you sync. You then it allows you to sync up in post the audio and the video, because sometimes because of all these technological things, is all electrons and going out into the universe, right, Dr. Wayne? Some things don't move in pace. So we do that, right? And today, which is a nice segue to our topic for today, because uh, just like the audio and the video may not be in sync, sometimes who we want to be or who we aspire to be may not be in sync with where we are or who we are today. And I think believe Dr. Wayne is going to talk about this today, which is we can actually do something to create a new state of being that we wish to be, right, Dr. Wayne?
Yes, exactly. So this topic is do this to create a new state of being. So as BK just mentioned there, that so if you think that moving into your network marketing business, so I suppose the first step might be whether you want to move into your network marketing business. So the state of being that you may be in at this particular time is, you feel stuck moving forward and you're not sure if you want to move into a network marketing business. Well, this particular episode will help you then to maybe align yourself with thinking, okay, this may be something that I want to look at. Or you may be thinking, well, I'm in my network marketing business, but I'm not a good salesperson. And, it seems as if everyone else is good at sales, but I don't seem to be like that. So this will help you to understand where you are and then where you can need to go. Or you may be not a duplicator, and you feel as if you want to become a better duplicator because you got your business to where you want it, in terms of not where you want it, but where you're happy with where you are now. But the next part of your evolution as a network marketer is literally becoming a better duplicator. So your state of being now might be over here. That may be holding you back because you want to come to over here. So this particular topic is looking at that, and it's going to be an interesting topic, BK.
It sounds like it is, because we are going to talk about some of the universal laws at the same time as well, right?
Yes, all the time, because like the main thing I think, BK, for those people who may be listening for the first time, is what I like to do, and this is the way that I've looked at probably 30 plus years in the wellness industry. What I've found is that when I first started out, I wanted something concrete that I could put my hat on, that I knew that if I said 30 years ago was basically the same today and in another 20 years. And what I found is the face of science kept moving the goalposts because they really were only as good as the technology of the day. Now, that's no one's fault. It's the way we move in evolution, that's for sure. But I wanted something more solid. So what I found back then is if I listened to ancient medicine's philosophies, whether that be traditional Chinese medicine, whether that be Ayurvedic, which some suggest is at least 4,000 and others suggest up to 40,000 years old, somewhere in between there must be a whole lot of truth. And what I do know is when I first allowed myself to cement myself into that way of thinking, what I was talking about back 20 years ago has now been proven today in unequivocal scientific data. For example, I was talking about leaky gut and how the gut, for example, looks after the brain, where, in traditional Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine, the gut is the seat of health. The gut looks after the way our brain interacts. It looks after our immune system and all this. And of course, today it's quite well known, quite well known. So getting back to the universal laws, so there's 7 universal laws that we then that I like to work with that allows us to put a topic together like do this to create a new state of being. And I'm not just talking about something that's been invented 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, because there's so many different techniques. And this is not having going any particular technique that's been newly developed or anything like that. But what I like to really work on is something that is at least 4,000 or plus years old. And these particular universal laws, which there's 7, and we work through them at different times, are all linked to each one of these subjects. And this particular one, the universal law that we're going to link it with, is the law, the first universal law, which is the law of mentalism, or from a quantum physics point of view, it's the 5th and 6th, some will say the 7th and 8th dimensions, which is looking at the information fields or the infinite fields that's available to us as well. So yes, always linking it to the universal laws, BK.
And it's also interesting sometimes to note that, and because I was a former educator, and one of my, I would say, mm, quibble with the system is that we we kind of teach from the very young to say about junior college that certain things are cast in like certain things are facts or cast in stone kind of principles, but only when you hit the universities, then you start to realize that actually a lot of things that you were taught in school were actually more like scientific theories. Even the scientists themselves are not very sure. There are multiple camps, people who are for this camp and then people who are for that camp, right? And a lot of them are kind of work in progress, right? So a lot of these things are like that. And it's interesting because some of the signs that we used to know are also like what Dr. Wayne was saying, right? Are starting to realize that they were that was version 1 and they were not too accurate. Version 2 is more accurate. Then there's a version 3 that is even more accurate. And it is kind of like like if you have a iPhone in your hands, right? iPhone 1 versus iPhone upcoming one is 13. It's going to be different and better in that sense. It's improved.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of the recent science that what Dr. Wayne has just shared is that it is becoming aligned with some of the universal things that we have been talking. I mean, our ancients has been talking about for the longest time.
Yes, yes, most definitely. And that's why I love it, because it's kind of like something you can put your hat on as a permanent hook to go, yep, these are the universal laws that we, 7 of them that we know about, and they've been around for thousands of years. And when we then, it's kind of like the quantum leap is then saying, well, this is where this universal says is X. Science then has to go, okay, how can we then prove that? And the more that they look at a universal law and then they go and try and prove it, unequivocally, they'll find the proof, as in quantum physics, et cetera, et cetera. So we can get deep into that, I know, BK, but we'll get lost. We'll get really, really lost.
Well, I mean, even like one of my favorite current movie franchises, which is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Asgardian says that magic is just science not proven.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Yeah,
There are
very,
a lot
very
of things.
true.
It's like magic is this science not proven. Just imagine, the very first person who created fire, right? He managed to spark a rock and then created fire, and everybody around him was like, "What did you just do? You just did magic," and then realized later on that it's actually just simple science or even mechanics.
Yeah, but the poor old frontal lobe and that part back then wasn't developed enough to be able to acknowledge what was going on. And that's really something interesting as well. We know that from science that the frontal lobe is about 40% of the brain, for example, but they actually say that the frontal lobe only works below 10%. So imagine if we're able to tap into the capacity of what the different aspects of the brain are able to do. I think at times that can be quite scary.
Yeah, there's some like movies about them as well. I think there's one called Limitless, where somebody
Yes,
uses a
yes.
drug, and then he's able to push his brain to function at even better state. And of course, I think there's another one. There's a movie that is also quite interesting, where it's also a drug related thing. Seems like the modern world is fascinated with drugs in all
I think,
in one form or another, right?
yeah, I think the one you may be thinking was the movie Lucy, where
Yes, Lucy,
they,
correct.
yes,
Yeah.
Lucy, yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's interesting things that they're talking about, but they're really talking about what the ancients have been saying for quite some time, and the way that we can move into basically changing our stars, changing our destiny, changing our new state of being is through meditation. We'll get into this a little bit more, but what I like to do right at the beginning is basically go through what we went through last time. So we weren't there last week because a few things actually happened that we couldn't get on board last week. But the week before that, we talked about how your thoughts and feelings can change your destiny, which is a really, really deep dive into the language of the brain, how the feelings are the language of the body. And we even went into there's trillions of genetic mutations that happen every day. We went into epigenetics. We just went into all these different things and we spoke about them in great detail. And we aligned that with the law of cause and effect, which is law number 6, which is a mutable law. And remembering mutable laws, meaning that we can change it, we can work with that mutable law, whereas an immutable law means that we can't change it, but what we can do then is definitely work with it. Like, for example, gravity. Gravity is a immutable law, but if we work with it, we can learn to fly through an aeroplane, for example. And we went deeply into that. And the main thing that is really, really important to understand with all these universal laws, there's 2 universal laws that we really have to understand, and that's the law of attraction, the law of abundance, whatever words you like to use there, and then the law of resistance. They're the underpinning laws of all of these laws that we're talking about, and we'll get deeper and deeper into this as we go. So for those people who missed out on the last episode, by all means, BK will show you how you can go back and listen to that. It was a great dive into how thoughts and feelings can change your destiny, for example. So the burning question that I think is on everyone network marketing lips is basically there's 3 questions where I think that we'd like to, between BK and I, like to aspire to help people, help network marketers to get unstuck. So the first question is, why are others doing so well and you personally feel yet you might be feeling stuck? The second one then is, why are others building their network marketing business easily without bugging their family, friends, and loved ones? And thirdly, and why are other people's teams actively recruiting? We call them roaring lions, and my team seems to be asleep like a sloth. Now, of course, that's not having a negative go at anyone. It's just a nice, a nice way of putting it together. And we believe that these are the burning questions, and BK and I will give you the answers. And as mentioned, there's 7 universal laws, and we're going to now move into do this to create a new state of being. So think of what I want you to do to start with is just put your attention on where you may feel stuck yourself. So whether that be in lead generation, getting new people into your network marketing business, whether I said right at the beginning, you're sitting on the fence, you're not sure where you want to go, if you want to join a network marketing company, or you might not be happy with the network marketing company you're in and you actually want to go somewhere else and be actively involved in another business. Or you might find that duplication is your challenge. Whatever your challenge may be, sales may be your challenge. Or it might be you're stuck on a 6-figure income and you want to get to a 7-figure income for those people who are actively involved and more deeply involved in network marketing. So whatever it may be, just come back and then think of, okay, what is my challenge? So that is your intention. If you want to, I want you to write it down. Okay, what is your intention by listening to this particular podcast right here with us? So anything there, BK, before I move to the next one?
Nope, we are all good. I'm just waiting for you to proceed and I can join in at the same time.
Excellent. And as said, this particular episode is aligned to the law of mentalism. And just to go through that for people who haven't heard of it, this is the first of the 7 universal laws. And this universal law tells us that there is a single universal consciousness, and your mind is a part of this universal mind. The same in kind, with only a slight difference, being 1 degree difference. So your reality is a manifestation of your mind. And as mentioned, it aligns itself with the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th dimensions of quantum physics. So another way of putting this is, I think everyone would remember Leonardo da Vinci, for example. He had some unbelievable drawings back in his time, which was prior to flight and airplanes and balloons, etc. And yet he was able to draw these things because he was able to tap into this universal mind. And we all have this ability, which is incredible. We are only 1 degree separated from this. All we've got to do through meditation, through the different things that we're teaching and showing and revealing in this podcast, we're actually helping you to be able to tap into this at will when you want, so that we can then help ourselves to become a better person, that's for sure, but also to help your team to basically become better people as well. Because our major goal in this, BK, as well, is to be ethically, morally as sound as one can be, and to have an ethos that basically now allows duplication within the network marketing business, that allows this business to be where it should be, and that I believe, and BK and I believe, should be the number one business moving forward. And even the experts are now saying it. They're now actually saying that the next trillion-dollar industry will be network marketing. Some people are saying it's even already there. And it's going to move into trillions and trillions of dollars. And especially now that what's happening with home businesses, people basically wanting a plan B, it's becoming more and more evident, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure, because the industry has grown up over the years. I mean, we are
Yeah.
a relatively young industry. We are kind of like not that many years, but we have made some mistakes in the past, and of course, we have definitely matured and grown professional. And in fact, I was just telling the team sometimes that our friends are stuck in the 80s with the reasons and excuses on why they are not joining network marketing, right? They kind of need to
Yeah.
update their excuses, because it is no longer an industry to be taken lightly off. We are paying out close to 200 million a day, every single day, right?
Every
To
single day. Yeah.
everyone who participates in the industry. So this is definitely a force to be reckoned with. So if you are kind of sitting on the fence, like what Dr. Wei was saying just now, have a chat with somebody. They're definitely able to help you in that sense, right? Somebody's going to be able to help you, somebody who has experience in the industry, because it is no longer the same, right? It is very different, and that's why we are having candid conversations about network marketing here, right? We are telling the world that this is a wonderful industry to be in.
And if we use the analogy, if we go back in time and we look at the people who are still in their horse-drawn carriages watching the car go past and going, "Oh, that will never take off. Oh, that will never take off," or the person still writing their letter to be posted in the mail and saying, "Oh, those email things, that will never take off. That's for sure." Or the person basically going to the bank with their hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, and they go in there and they put the money in, and then they take it out, and it says, "Oh, you can't transfer money over the internet, or you can't transfer money from A to B. It's not safe. It's not safe." And we can go on and on. But as BK just said before, it's exactly the same with network marketing. A lot of people are stuck in the 80s or the 90s, thinking that it's not a legitimate business. It's not a Ponzi. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid scheme, and all that is totally not true for legitimate businesses, that's for sure. Network marketing business, that's been totally discredited, that's for sure. So getting back to our topic, which is do this to create a state of being. And I know some of these things we've gone through before, but we're going to give another slant on it. And I'd like to give credit where credit's due all the time. And of course, all the information that we get also comes from these laws of the universe, that's for sure. But there's a lot of people at present who have been writing about these things or podcasting, etc. From people like Deepak Chopra I read a book recently from Paramahansa Yogananda, from his guru, even Joe Dispenza. Then you've got Esther Hicks, and then you've got all these great minds that are basically now coming together to get this information out there. So if I go back 20 years ago, and I know the internet and podcasting and YouTube and all these different things have allowed the information age to actually really come to the fore, that's for sure. But it's really coming to the fore in understanding the way that we can attract anything into our lives when we understand these universal laws. So this particular little section is from Supernatural with Joe Dispenza, for example. There's some things in here that he talks about as well. But as said, there's so many people that both BK and I listen to and work with, and acknowledge because of the great work that they're doing as well. And I know I was doing this 25 years ago, and we didn't have too many people back then doing it when I was teaching meditation back in those days.
Which is good, and in a sense, and sometimes I also tell my team that you don't have to feel pressurized to come up with something new, because in
Yeah.
essence, today it's actually very difficult to come up with something very original or very new. Because so many things have been discussed by so many different people. And of course, it's not that we are basically when you assimilate something, you kind of also have again a slightly different level of understanding about
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
because of your personal experience and your own personal life experience as well as business experience, a lot of times you kind of get a little bit of a slightly different nuance to a certain idea, right? And therefore you're able to
Correct. Yeah.
translate it to somebody. And also the other thing is that I think another pressure that a lot of people feel is that they kind of feel that they need to be experts before they can share something. But the
Yeah.
reality is
True.
that when whatever you know and whatever you share at that level, it is able to benefit someone who needs it at that level.
Exactly. Very
Yeah.
true. Very
So
true.
so
Yeah.
so you don't have to feel the pressure that you need to become like a mastermind, a master guru, or like the top of the class before you can actually start sharing. So that's one of the biggest takeaways for myself, because whatever I'm sharing at my capacity right now is definitely going to be beneficial to someone who needs it at that capacity right now.
Yes. Exactly. And if we use the universal law that we're actually talking about now, the law of mentalism, each one of the people that I just named was actually able to tap into this universal mind and then basically bring back those truths for them. So no matter who it be on planet Earth, and something has been discovered, and we've talked about this before, BK, like for example, if we go back to the 11th century, for example, the iPad and the iPhone were in the ethers. Like they were already everything that is being invented today, everything that is about to be invented is already in the ethers, in this universal mind. But in the 11th century, we didn't have the technology. Even if you got the information, same as Leonardo da Vinci, if he got the information on, oh, this is what an aeroplane looks like, he hasn't got the technology to build it.
In fact, some of the things that Dr. Wayne is talking about, like mentalism and how we are part of a universal consciousness, like I kind of like to bring things into like something we can imagine, right? I believe the best explanation about this that I heard about is fractal geometry, or
Yes.
if you think about it, holograms. If you have seen a hologram, if you have seen the movie Star Wars, when Luke kind of activated the hologram with Princess Leia asking for help, calling for help, that is a holographic projection, right? So the
Yeah.
interesting thing about holograms, if you do not know, is that it's based on fractal geometry as well. If you cut it up into small little pieces, the small little pieces will still be able to transmit the whole image because it is part of the whole, right? So you have the whole thing, and then but if you cut them up into smaller, even smaller pieces, the small little pieces are still going to show you the big picture because it is part of the whole. And that's the beauty and the fascinating thing about this. It's kind of like us, right? While the universe is vastly huge and expanding all the time, right? As far as we know, we are part of that universe, and therefore we are also part of that. You know, the part shows the whole shows the part. That's the interesting part about what we're talking about today, right? And science and technology in terms of fractal geometry as well as holograms are showing us how this is done.
Yes. 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 And And to put it another way, just bringing you back to another level, BK, as well. So, say, for example, say you may be feeling you're not a good duplicator in your network marketing business, and that is a feeling that you have. But if you look deep within you, there's probably another part of you that will actually say, hey, I'm a very good duplicator. So think of it like the good duplicator thought is that part of you that is your inner being, that is your um, inner true self. The thought that is saying that you're not a good duplicator is the anchor or the subconscious belief that somehow was pre-programmed prior to the age of 7, or as we've said before, and from the ancient medicine principles, it's the law. It's the mistake of the intellect. So somehow a thought has come into our brain at whatever age, usually before the age of 7, that basically says that we're not a good communicator with people. We find it hard to get our message across. We find that we get our message across abruptly, or can't do it succinctly. Whatever that challenge may be, therefore follows us around. But all we've got to do is get out of the way of that, and then all of a sudden things can change. So what literally happens is, say you've got this thing about being a duplicator. Now, what happens now is that emotion of negativity is literally think of it like a magnetic charge. And what it does, it's being put out into the universe as this energy that I'm not a good duplicator. Okay. And then, of course, through the law of attraction, that's what it brings back, that I'm not a good I'm not a good duplicator. And then, unfortunately, the law of resistance come into that and basically then makes it even stronger. I'm really not a good duplicator, unfortunately. So think of it like anything that has an elevated emotion has this charge that allows whatever that frequency may be to actually now become your reality. Think of it like a magnetic charge. Now think of your intention that I got you to write down. Hopefully you did write that down. Is the electrical charge. Okay, so the electrical charge is the intention. So these elevated emotions then, if we think of it from a negative perspective, and we talked about this before, just to go over it again, approximately 70,000 thoughts a day, 80% are about, unfortunately, are pessimistic, 95% are about the past. That's what science suggests. And of course, what happens is we keep on, therefore, creating our future from the past. So here's our future, but we keep on creating our future from the past. However, if we can change that elevated emotion to, say, for example, nurturing or caring or joy or happiness or gratitude. Gratitude is one that I really like, or trust or creation, or whatever it might be, or to serve, or you feel safe in being the duplicator, using that as the example, for example. So what happens is when you keep on allowing that to be your elevated emotion, what happens now, it brings out a different electromagnetic signature that now will come back to you, meaning that now you start attracting and getting the best out of people that you may not have thought was possible before. Now, the key to this is that anyone can have an intention. Think of an intention as a goal. Another word is a goal. And I've often said, between BK and I in our conversations, that unfortunately 80 to 90% of goals never really, they don't work. The law of attraction doesn't work. I've said that many times as well, not to negate that it does work, but 80 to 90% of people can't make it to work. And the reason being is because of what I said before, is because their major emotions are stuck in time as an anchor of negativity back here. And what happens is we keep on creating our future from this past, unfortunately. And if we can move into a different feeling, so for example, if I can do it now, like Pavlov's dog, and I mean that nicely, the old experiment of Pavlov's dog, if you scratch the side of a dog, it'll move its feet, or if you ring a bell, it will then actually go and it'll salivate looking for food, even though there's no food in front of it. So using that as an example, all I've got to do now is think of gratitude, as I think of joy and happiness. And once I can do that, it's happening now, I'm getting tingles in my spine, and I can actually feel overjoyed with happiness. And that's how quickly you need to be able to do this, because the human brain, unfortunately, because of thousands of years of genetic expression, meaning that we're always been on the guard. So if you look at, let's just look at that from a genetic expression point of view. Science suggests that it takes thousands of years for a gene to express itself in a way that we can actually utilize a different food. For example, they suggested that it took about 1,000 years for the Japanese to be able to digest seaweed. So if we eat seaweed and you're not Japanese, we get a little bit out of seaweed. We don't get everything that a Japanese person will get out of seaweed, for example. The same as corn, if you're not born in different, we can keep that theme going anywhere. And I'll use an example with regards to the enzyme that breaks down alcohol, for example. So if you go to America and Australia, where the Aboriginals of the land, they can't break down the alcohol, therefore they have huge problems with alcohol and sugar, for example. And remembering that's been 500 years, and the genetic expression or the genes still not being expressed in a positive way to allow those people to be able to digest alcohol, for example. Whereas in the West, we've been able to digest alcohol because we've had thousands and thousands and thousands of years of alcohol as one of the things we've been used. And this is exactly the same, getting back to because we've had thousands and thousands of years of being in the fight and flight mechanism, looking out for danger, looking out for preservation, finding the place to live, finding safety. What happens is the brain naturally will go to pessimism. And what we've got to do now is the time, like because of everything that's happening around us today, and also because of all these great minds now coming together and saying similar things, because the universal mind is suggesting this needs to be done in this particular time because of everything that's happening. If we can bring joy, we can bring happiness and gratitude into our heart, we can change anything. And I've read many books that says if you can change one little thing in yourself where gratitude now becomes your major theme that you operate from, you can change 150,000 other people below you as well from a resonance point of view. So that was a lot of stuff just there, BK.
Yeah, but all very interesting and fascinating, right? Yeah. In
Yes,
fact, we would
yes.
like to invite you to be part of the conversation. That is partly why we call these candid conversations about network marketing. So if you have questions about the things that we just mentioned, please do feel free to leave a comment or connect with us some way. And we're happy to either go deeper into something that you would like us to, or discuss another topic that might be relevant, right? So our intention is actually just to help to grow the industry and help people to achieve the kind of success and level of success that they want, right? Sometimes it might get a little bit deep, but it is definitely interesting, and it is actually, if you find it a little bit deep, it's just because it is probably something you're encountering for the very first time. It's kind of like if you join your company, and depending on what kind of product offering you have, something is on the job training, right? Initially, you may find, oh, I can't do this, I can't explain the ingredients and the functions and what you can do. But as you hear and listen to, maybe your leader or somebody who's a speaker talk about it a few times, and suddenly you realize that, hey, actually, it's actually not as difficult, as deep as it seems, right? So this is something that Dr. Wei has been doing for more than 30 years. It sounds absolutely natural coming out from him, but if you hear it for the first time, it might sound a little bit deep, but and maybe not too accessible yet. But congratulations, because the very fact that you are here, or the very fact that somebody sent you this recording or podcast, it's a sign that the universe out there has a message for you. That's how I always see it, right? Whatever I come
Definitely, yeah.
across, somebody is telling me something. And especially if I come across something from multiple sources, then I know that somebody is really trying to tell me something.
Very true, mate. Very true. Yeah. So, and I'll just reiterate that, how true that is. So how many times does it's called the reactive, RAS, sorry, BK, I've lost a word. RAS, activated system. I've forgotten the first word. But anyway, the RAS basically then comes out, which is then your brain will align you with different things that'll help you to get to where you want to get to. And as BK put there before, is that listening to this podcast may allow you to actually move from where you are now to another level of thinking, another level of understanding, which will then help your business and yourself to grow as well, and those around you. So think of it like combining the magnetic charge with the electric charge. As mentioned before, that's our electromagnetic signature. So when we marry these two together, this signature then is created, and therefore it has a field, or it has a frequency that everything then vibrates at. And this then moves into what we call the information fields. And when it moves into the information fields, if this information field is in the positive, what happens then, that whatever you are aligned with will then come back to you in the positive. But remembering the law of attraction, the law of abundance does not distinguish between negative or positive. It just is. So if our mind is always thinking, oh, I'm not a good duplicator, oh, I'm not a good leader, oh, I'm not a good XYZ, and you're putting those frequencies out into the universal or the universal mind, the universal field, the law of mentalism, whatever words you want to use, then what will happen? Once again, the law of attraction doesn't mind what you send out. It will then magnetically come back to you exactly in that form, proving your reality. And the hardest thing, I think, for anyone to really grasp in here is the response of, like a lot of people have said to me, well, that's putting a lot of responsibility onto me, for example. And what I have personally found, when you get this, it liberates you. When you truly get this, it liberates you, because now you know you are in total control of your universe. Now, control is not the right word. I don't like using that word, but it describes what I'm trying to say right now in this particular instance. So what it does, it gives you the ability to know that you can change your reality by understanding this information. And guess what happens? I've got 10 people who I'm coaching. This is typically the law of Pareto's law. I use Pareto's law. I've got 10 people who I'm coaching, for example, and this is not happening now, but I'm just using this as an example. And even if I've got 10 people I'm coaching with business, or 10 people I'm coaching with wellness, 10 people I'm coaching with improving their relationships, whatever it might be, 2 are going to do exceptionally well in a very short period of time. And the 8 are going to take a lot longer. If they stay with me, they'll get through it. But it's because of what we're talking about, is because some people's electromagnetics that have been thrown out into the universe for the last 20, 30, 40 years have been so negative, it takes a leeway, it takes time for that to be caught up with. Not to say that's a negative, but the more that you put into it, and what I'm talking about here now is action, is actually doing the things that's allowing you to move to where you want to get to. And unfortunately, 80% of people find action very difficult. They'll do other things, or they'll put it off, or they won't do it. And therefore, they're wondering why it's not occurring, unfortunately.
It's kind of like it's kind of like muscles, whether is
Yeah,
it your
yeah,
physical muscle or your mental muscles, and you kind of need to start to do something, and then you kind of build up muscle memory. And of course, like what Dr. Wayne was saying, if you have been thinking negative thoughts all this while, you kind of have built up the muscle memory for negative thoughts. So you need to change it. It's also like one of the favorite sports that Dr. Wayne likes to play, which is golf, right? Sometimes if you learn golf on your own and you build up the wrong habits and you go to a coach, the coach has to spend time to undo or maybe get
yeah,
you to unlearn some of those negative habits, right? So it's the same for us. So if you feel that you're struggling and you kind of like, how come, like when we talked about in the beginning of the show, why are some people in your company or some people around you seems to be smooth sailing across the company ranks and advancing very rapidly, but you are struggling? Just know that as you plow along, you're going to get better, right? And it's a
yeah,
step-by-step thing. And I think the word that, I don't know, I mean, Dr. Wayne said he didn't like the word control. I guess another way to say is that you are moving from a state of being powerless to being powerful, right?
yes, yes,
Because once you understand that your intentions, your thoughts can influence the state where you can be in the future, right? the person that you can be in the future, in the near future, then you move from being powerless to being powerful, because now you're no longer a person that is just riding the waves, but rather you can create the waves that you want, right? Because of what you are thinking, the kind of intentions you set yourself every day.
Very true, mate. So just to sum up, so think of it like, if we look at the way most people think, where basically 80% is about pessimism, 90% about the past. So then remembering, this then unfortunately becomes the elevated emotion, which is the magnetic charge. And then over here we have our intention, which is the electric charge. And what happens, unfortunately, this then creates our future, which then might be tiredness, low energy, overwhelm, can't think straight, frustrated, you feel stuck, you can't duplicate, you're not good at sales, you can't speak to people very well, whatever it may be. I've got this, I'd like to improve my income by $300 or $500, but I can't. So that's how most people create. What we want to help you to do is to go into the now, whereby you're having a heartfelt, elevated emotion that is a magnetic charge with the intention of whatever that may be. So the intention may be, I want to become a duplicator. I want to be good at sales. I want to go to the next rank, whatever it may be. And whatever that intention may be, we marry the two together, and this is where we can create a totally different future and what we call a totally different state of being. So this is how you can do it. Hopefully you'll be one of the 2 out of the 10 that will actually act upon what we've suggested here, and you will therefore see yourself duplicating whatever your intention may be. You'll see things change in your world, and everyone will be asking, how did you do it? What happened? This is what literally happens to those who act.
And thank you so much, Dr. Wayne. With that, we kind of wrap up another live episode of Candid Conversation. And so once again, if you want to catch us on our previous archive episodes, please look at networkmarketerpodcast.com. This is where you can find the archive podcast episodes. And Dr. Wayne has very kindly produced the show notes as well. So if you want the show notes, just hit us up at those places, right? And of course, at the same time, if you are looking to dive deeper into these spiritual laws quickly, then check us out at the numerical number, that's 5, numerical number 5, 5hiddenreasons.com. That's the numerical number 5, 5hiddenreasons.com, right? So we wrap up another episode. Thank you, Dr. Wayne. We went on longer than expected. And just a quick last mention. We would really like to invite you to be part of the conversation. So if you have questions, comments, or if you have topics that you would like us to cover, then just reach out to us, and we're happy to cover them. Because the whole reason why we call it Candid Conversations is that we'll try and talk about anything as long as it's legal about the industry, right? As long as we're legally allowed to talk about it, we will talk about things that some of the struggles and some of the difficulties that maybe some of us have. Maybe we don't talk about it enough. Sometimes when we try to, attract people to something, we kind of gloss over some of the difficult things, right? We don't talk about the challenges that you may find, right? You can't tell you, oh, it's very easy, but it's not. It's not difficult. It's simple, but it may not be easy, right? There's a difference
Correct,
there.
yeah.
And of course, if you are, whether you're considering a career in the industry, or you are already in the industry and struggling, and then you have some difficulties, we would definitely like to be able to help address some of this in another candid conversation. So thank you, Dr. Wayne. I'll see you when I see you.
Okay, will do, BK. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great week.